Okay, well, I hope everybody can see me sort of, and we can see things here. So thanks for coming out, the ones that drove all the way over here. Is that better? Yeah, it doesn't bother you? No? Okay. Well, it's lovely to be together again after 3 years to just give an update about the ministry and mission of Dalam in Bolivia. There will be opportunity for questions. I'm aware there are people on Zoom. You'll have to write your questions down because we are not looking at anybody raising their hands at the moment. But please bear with us to the end, and people here, obviously in the room, can ask their questions as and when they come up. So I went to Bolivia 33 years ago with money for a bed and a fridge and my first 2-month keep, and that was me done. I didn't know why God wanted me to Bolivia. I didn't know what I was supposed to do there. I just knew I should go, so I did. And in the beginning, I did all sorts of things. I did women's ministry. I did children's ministry. No, thank you. I did teaching English as a second language. So, and then I got in touch with a program for adult alcoholics and drug addicts, something I'd also worked with in the Simon community, as well as in Holland, in a particular setup, and that clicked. So I then got involved with them and worked alongside them for a number of years. So I'll pick up from there. Anyone who wants the long story, I'm just plugging the book now. A book was written about my life story and ministry, biography that's on sale for $6.50. So that's the whole story. If you would click me through to the next. So I live in the city of La Paz at 12,500 feet of altitude, a large city in the middle of the Andes. And I work in the city of El Alto, which is on the high plateau, the high plain of the Andes Mountains. We have 36 ethnical groups in Bolivia, 33 language groups. The largest ones, Aymara and Quechua people, and the Guarani. There are 3 recognized languages in Bolivia, and I speak some Aymara, enough to fool. Like a police officer was trying to take the mickey out of me because for my car registration thing, I had to take my glasses off. Oh, and my muzzle, because we still wear them in Bolivia. I said, my glasses and my mask, yeah? He said, yeah, if you want, you could take your clothes off as well. I said, yeah, keep dreaming, you know. So, and then he asked me how long I'd been in Bolivia. So I said, Tunka Kinsani Marans. And he sort of looked at me, and his colleague looked at him and split his sides laughing because this police officer didn't speak any Aymara. So that left him. Yeah, that was very funny. Anyway, we are a developing country, which is a horrible way to say that a lot of people have a very, very difficult life in Bolivia. I know there's a lot of poverty in the United Kingdom. I'm aware of that. But I think the amount of people in Bolivia that have nothing in their pantry today is a multitude compared to what people are facing that particular reality in the United Kingdom. And when I say nothing in the pantry, I mean not a tea bag, not a little bit of flour, because you can roast flour over fire and you can eat that, but nothing. And in Bolivia, that's still the reality. And because a lot of people work hand to mouth, if you have no job today, then you don't eat. The Bible talks about that. We don't like that scripture, but it's a crude reality for a lot of people in our countries. Anyway, so I'm showing you this one first because this just shows you the magnitude of the miracles that the Lord has done. On the top to the left is the House of Adullam, house for teenage boys, addicted boys. We bought that house, I think, in '95. And then to the right at the top, that's Talita Kumi, house for addicted young women. In those years, the word gender meant something else than it does now. In those years, this is 2000. Gender simply meant working with women. Now it means a whole host of stuff that I'm not going to go into. And then the Dutch Christian Broadcasting Company came to Bolivia wanting to do a program about my life and ministry. And that was My Heart is in Bolivia. That's how they called the program. And they raised funds for the house at the bottom to the left, which initially was halfway house for boys, as well as offices for the whole of the mission. And we have an auditorium there. And at the top, we have living quarters for volunteers. There are 3 German volunteers living there at the moment. And Felina, the director of the mission, she lives there as well. We don't have halfway house for boys anymore. There's no more need for it. So everything changes over time as well. This is 2004. And in about the same time, the house in the middle was built, because there's still some money left over from the Dutch Christian Broadcasting Company, as well as from the embassy. We were able to build that house. Halfway house for girls. At some point, we've had girls living there. We ran a kindergarten there for some time as well. And now there's no more kindergarten, no more halfway house for girls. We've got a whole series of freezers there with foodstuffs for the whole of the mission. One of the psychologists lives at the top floor there. So everything, like I said, changes. And then the house at the bottom to the right is Hesed. That's our house, but initially built for addicted young couples. Also with addictions. All the people that we work with are people that are addicted to alcohol, drugs, pills, marijuana, but also addictive behavior like anorexia, bulimia, cutting, video games, you name it, everything and around addictive behavior. So we have that. And then Hesed was a miracle in itself as well. When a missionary has too much money, you always wonder why. So when I had a bit of too much money in my pocket, I thought, well, maybe we should buy a piece of land. I paid nothing for all these pieces of land. It was just, if we look at it now, it's just ridiculous. I don't know what I paid for this piece of land, a couple of $1,000. But I thought to have chicken there and grow lettuce or stuff, But then the need arose, and I'll tell that later, for the House of Hesed. And I got an architect in the church to do me a design and so on. And then a church in the United Kingdom decided to sell their building. And I got, out of the blue, £25,000. Well, that was the start of the building of this House of Hesed. So I wanted you to see this, because all of these houses are miracles. They were not in my suitcase. I don't have a tree in the back garden. I don't have a back garden either. But these are all miracles because the Lord wanted them. I live by faith. Mission Adullam lives by faith. We haven't converted ourselves in a big organization that has this funding thing. We don't present grants. This has been the Lord's doing through people like yourselves, and that's just amazing. So that's why I wanted you to see it together, because when we had our 30-year anniversary, a couple of guys from Holland were there, as well as David Medlock, for the anniversary. And a Dutch guy said, I didn't realize you had 5 buildings and blah, blah, it was all so big, and saying, well, have you not been reading my newsletters? Thank you. Apparently not, but anyway, so that's this one. Okay. I started going out to the streets to the right at the bottom, looking up street gangs. This man was in rehabilitation when I worked with the adult men. And I'm sitting between teenagers that we found on the streets. And that's Teresa and myself, Teresa to the left at the top. She is still a very close friend and somebody I dearly love. Over there, of course, this is when I'd only just arrived 33 years ago. I was co-pastoring a little church out of the rehab center that I was working alongside with. This is her daughter, Anita, the one that died of COVID nearly a year ago now. She was 32 years old. In the beginning, the Lord led me to work with the adults. Gustavo, the one you see on the bottom to the right, is somebody that was in rehabilitation then. And, something like, I don't know how you handle promptings of the Lord, but I was not very clever as to how to realize what was going on, because people not hearing us.
So they can hear you, they can't speak.
Okay.
So Karen, yeah.
So Gustavo in church, last Sunday I was in church, I had a nudge in my heart, I'd love to do a selfie, and I didn't do it because he was still half vulnerable. He was not doing drugs anymore, but he was sort of still living on the streets. So I felt I can't really do this, him being vulnerable. But anyway, so I didn't. 4 days later, he was dead. And what that taught me again, when the Lord, I would do an escape and then you probably get rid of the rubbish. No, you get rid of the wrong rubbish, yeah. That's all right. But anyway, so that taught me, that it's important to do when you feel nudging your heart to just do what you're told by the Lord. But anyway, yeah. And thank you, whoever wrote the message to Anne, because that was very helpful. And I hope everything's sorted now. Except here, we've still got a little glitch, which is sorted out now. But while I was working with the adult men, they had decided to fast. And I said, it's very easy to fast if you're not cooking. So I said, we're going to cook. I said, we're going to, it's true, isn't it? I said, we're going to cook and we're going to cook for the street. So then we went out to the streets and took our meal. So that's how I first got in touch with the teenagers, because they were out there in gangs. And they asked Teresa and myself, would we come back and would we come and speak with them? So that's what we did. Okay. Now, the House of Adullam was the first house that was built. This house built for teenage boys, 13 to 18-year-olds, and about 535 by now boys have lived with us in the rehabilitation center. All of them did alcohol and drugs. No boys that only come because they have nowhere else to live. We're not a children's home. We're not a youth facility as that. We are a rehabilitation center. They all come with a court order, as in because they're minors of age. I have legal custody. So gone are the days that you can have a ministry, these boys, we really love them. We open the house and we're going to look after you. Gone are the days. And now, because child protection services are involved, I have to have fully qualified staff. They have to be fully university qualified, otherwise I can't have them. I can have the odd one as like the maintenance man isn't a university graduate, but we have to have qualified staff because of the complexity as well of the people that we get in the house. In the past, we had about 75% of the streets. Now we have 75% that comes from a so-called normal family. So that's just a whole different scene. And I'm just wondering if the people that are on Zoom are seeing all this palaver around as well.
No, they
No?
should just be seeing.
Are you just seeing the PowerPoint screen, Graham?
Yes, just seeing the PowerPoint screen.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Thank you. So these boys live with us and they are going to a rehabilitation program that includes a whole variety of things. And we're just going to go to the next picture here. So part of what we do is we are a therapeutic community. And what that means is that we live together, we do stuff together, be it sports, we have a little garden in each of the houses. We do cooking together with the boys. Here, Jorge is going over into the next stage of rehab. We cook for the freezer, as in we cut vegetables and things for the freezer. It's hand washed cold water where we are, no washing machines. Everybody does their own thing. And why is that? That's because boys and the girls that come to the rehabilitation centers, part of what their problem is, they've not learned life skills. So they need to learn life skills as much as anything else. That's what we do in the program. And the funny thing in the pandemic was, I asked the girls after 7 months that they'd been locked in. I said, well, how did this affect you? And they said, well, in the past, if we had a problem between us, we would need 4 hours of therapy to sort ourselves out. He says, well, now we're done in 10 minutes. So that was actually quite funny. Yeah. Now, Talita Kumi, built in 2002. At the bottom, you see Gustavo, little boy who came to the mission with his mother. And next picture next to him is himself when he was 15, lovely boy, loving Jesus. Here are the girls with the church that was visiting them. Girls baking bread, we bake our own bread. You've seen the boys with the pizzas. And Teresa at the left side of the picture doing a Bible study with the ladies. And in the last picture that came in, you see an Aymara lady in the ceremony that we have when one of the girls is leaving the program. At the moment, we have quite a few leaving the program. And although the boys' house was opened 97, 98, the girls' house 2002, incidentally, we had a similar amount of boys as well as girls through the house. We had about 530 something by now girls through the house in these 20 years, boys' houses 25 years. And then with girls, 73 children. In the past, we had children come in with their mums because the girls were older. We used to have girls 13 to about 30 or 35, because I never saw it to be a problem. If you've got a woman that's 25, she probably worked as a prostitute. She probably had a few babies or abortions. Well, the 14-year-old girl probably has the same, you know. And I even had a girl, 15-year-old, who was trafficking other girls. I mean, she would get the girls, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, drug them and then sell them off, you know, for their first trick as in the trade. It's horrible. I mean, you can't. So the mindset of the girls, for me, was similar. But then Child Protection Service says, no, you can't have teenagers together with the adults anymore. So they now have compelled us to only limit the age group to up to 18, which is what it is, you know. We have to have specialist interventions, and that's a big mouthful. You think as a Christian organization, you know, what do you mean specialist interventions? You know, you love them, you pray for them, and then hallelujah, it's all finished. I wish it was like that. We sometimes have a situation where it works like that. More often than not, it doesn't. And for us, that's the same, isn't it? You can have a rotten attitude sometimes when you're very tired. And wouldn't it be great if you prayed about it and asked the Lord to change that in you? And it would be all, you know, the next time you're tired, there's no more rotten attitude. And all this beautiful smile will come out. Well, for me, it doesn't happen like that, I'm afraid. So most times our boys and girls need a lot of support from, for instance, psychologists. But if the parents are not willing to work with the psychologist as well, then we refuse to have the teenager, because no teenager is an item on its own. It's all part of systemic, is the official word, systemic approach. You need to be able to work with the families as well, because otherwise you've lost the teenager. That also implies, for instance, social work. If social work visits the families of our young people, then we get some understanding of what's actually going wrong in the family. We had a girl who didn't want to go back home. And when the social worker visited the home, well, the whole family dwelling was half this room, which included a bed where mom, stepfather, and the children were sleeping. And stepfather couldn't keep his hands to himself. So no wonder that she didn't want to go back to her family, you know. So it's very, very important. Today they had a training for parents of the young people in Adullam and Toledo Kumi. They had, I think, about 16 or so parents. And today they were teaching about relapse prevention, because we have quite a few young people that are actually leaving the program at the moment. So it's very important for family to understand how to help the young people to prevent relapsing into the alcohol and drugs. And sometimes we have to say to a family, you need to move to Santa Cruz, to another city, because if you're going to stay here, then you can just wait for it. You know, I've had drug pushers come and ring the doorbell in one of the houses as well. You know, so-and-so's in your house, but he owes us money. And sometimes we prefer to pay up rather than losing the kid. Yeah, wasn't huge money, but still. You know, so we have to have a lot of specialists in, and that's only because of the complexity as well. We never used to have so many mental health issues before. It's not because we weren't looking. We always had a doctor on staff. We've always had a psychologist and a social worker on staff, so it's not as if nobody was looking. But now we have to have kids that need to go to the neurologist or to the psychiatrist, which in the past hardly ever happened. You know, so things have changed a lot as well. And of course, all this nice stuff has to be documented. So staff has to write about 250 reports for the courts, child protection services, and so on, so on. And that goes from all the different people, as in social work, medical, psychologists, education, you know, all of them, because it's a holistic approach. Now, that's also a bit of a dirty word in Christian circles, but it just means that you look at the whole person. You know, you have to address everything that goes on with them. Here we have the national anthem. When you close something in the program, you do that very officially. So here we're teaching the director of the school, boys doing homework, girls doing homework led by one of the staff. And that's very, very difficult for them, because at the same time that they are here, they get taught by a teacher that comes to us. We sign them into school, but we homeschool them. So we've got a teacher in each of the teams, or an educational science person in each of the houses, and that's quite something. They deal with the pain that brought them to doing drugs for starters. They deal with the withdrawal symptoms. They deal with not living with their families and being in a structured situation, because they can't do as they please. You know, they can't even leave the house even if they want it, and then they have to be in school, and we expect them to perform, and they do. It's like here they're presenting a science project for the teachers and the directors of the school that we're linked with. Oh, that's amazing. They do really well. So not an easy thing, but very important, because they're minors of age. They have to be in school, you know, because when we used to have a lot of kids straight from the streets, we'd have a gap in schooling of 3 to 5 years. Now we could have a gap in schooling maybe of a year, sometimes a year and a half, but not usually anymore. And that's because they come from the streets. They come from a so-called normal family situation. So I already said we have a doctor on staff. We hire in psychiatry or neurology or stuff like that. This girl, Krista, is HIV positive and had tuberculosis to such a point that we thought she wasn't even going to make it, because she was very, very, very ill. And it's the credit of our doctor and the staff in general that they actually pulled her through. And the bottom picture, that's the same girl, and you see her there, beautiful woman, smiley. It's because she met Jesus for herself, and she went through difficult things that she had. So besides all the other fun that we have to deal with, we also sometimes have to deal with serious health issues. We've had boys sometimes seriously malnourished. You wouldn't believe if you meet Mama, you know, Mama is a considerable woman. And you get this scrawny boy, you know, and really severely, according to my doctor, severely malnourished. So we have a nutritionist on staff as well. We have to have them by instruction of the Child Protection Services. Yeah. So nutritionist comes in once a month to see everybody, weigh them and so on, and does stuff with the doctor. And she signs off all our menus. If our menus are not approved by our Child Protection Services, then we still have a problem as well. We wouldn't be able to function. Yeah.
Fineke, do you
Yeah.
think ask Alan if it's possible to mute the other screen, because we're hearing quite a lot of other noise that's drowning you
It's
out?
not the other screen, it's two little girls in the room.
Oh, I see,
Sorry,
right.
guys.
It keeps on popping up as the other screen. So I wondered whether one could be muted, but that's okay. Carry on.
Well, you can try and mute that thingamy, yeah. Meanwhile, we try to do fiddle. We go to Hesed. Hesed, House for Couples. This was built because there was a girl on the streets, and she was asking me, when are you going to open a house for couples? I said, I don't do houses. And the long and the short of it is that in the end, the Lord allowed us to build a house for addicted young couples. Sometimes they came with children, like the first picture, second picture you saw. I'm standing between Lucio and Doris with two of her children, and one of them was still in the womb. Well, both of them died. They relapsed, and after 6 months, first Doris died, and after 6 months, Lucio died as well. So very, very sad. And I think I'm the only person actually that has pictures of the parents of these boys, who are now being raised by Doris's sister, which is difficult. You know, if you're already living in Al Alto in a poverty situation, and then you get landed with 3 other children, you know, that's just very difficult. We've had our baby showers as well, because, you know, with people with addictions sometimes have a very immediate way of thinking. And of course, oh, we're now sober. Oh, maybe you should make a baby now we're sober. Oh, wonderful, you know. So then we'd have a baby shower. Anyway, so after 7-8 years of running Hesed, where we had 58 couples through the house, I don't remember with how many children, but then there was no more need for couples. We looked for them on the streets. We looked for them in other organizations that were working on the streets. And then we decided to close it. And there was supposed to be a need for children with addictions, boys, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. So we were willing, we officially opened for that, but they never came. So then we said after a month, okay, this is it, 2 months, nothing. And then we decided, well, forget this. And then we closed again. And then in 2017, we reopened as a setup for vulnerable children. Oops, this is coffee on your floor. That's one thing. Aren't you glad to have me visiting you? I'm fine, but it's your floor that I'm using. Sorry about that.
Just add to the collection.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
It wouldn't be the first one.
It's over there. Yeah, over the last. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. I'm just showing that I'm not a perfect photo around the house. Okay, let's go back on that one. Yeah, thank you, Alan. No, we need to go back, not forward. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Yeah, back, because then it comes in again. Yeah. So vulnerable children, what vulnerable means, you probably have to do it one more time. So yeah, that's better. Yeah. Probably get the first meal in the day, in the mid-morning snack or the mid-afternoon snack. Even when they come in the afternoon, they come either in the morning or in the afternoon. Here, there are 2 children get classes by a teacher. This is a lovely mural that was painted for us by some volunteers that we had. And this little girl, you can see that her trousers are way too short. So I'm grateful then for clothing that we have. And I'll tell you about the boy in a minute. Well, vulnerable children, that means ADHD. Is that how you say it? ADHD, Asperger's, autism, dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and this, that, and the other, because there's a whole string of them. Yeah, I like that one myself. Children, I don't know, with general learning difficulties. We've got some of them as well. We has had a light down. We can't really deal with deep. We can't deal with blind or dumb. But what happens is that in schools, we work with about 17 schools. And in the schools, they have children that are not progressing in their schoolwork, obviously, because they don't get the help that they need. So then they are evaluated by our staff. We have obviously psychologist, social worker, but also speech and language therapist, occupational therapy. We do that in the other houses as well. And an educational psychologist in the house. So they evaluate the children to see if we can actually work with them. So they can either come every day for the morning or the afternoon, the other time of the day during school, or they come maybe for 3 sessions with a speech and language therapist for half an hour or whatever they need. We have 67 children at the moment that come. And I think this picture is really sad because you see that boy picking up a bottle of oil. Well, in Hesed, we have a system of good behavior is being rewarded with points. And the points convert into Hesed money. So a couple of times in a year, they can buy stuff in the Hesed store, which could be toys, could be clothing, could be, this time we did toys, clothing, and food. And I think it's very sad when you got a 7 or 8-year-old autistic boy choosing to buy oil to take home to his family. That's why I said earlier, most of us have no idea what real poverty means. Because real poverty means that if there's still water in the tap, you drink water, but that's about it until the next time that somebody in the family actually earns some money to be able to buy something else for people to have. So we see very, very heart-wrenching things. And what we do in the mission in general, there's no free picnic for anybody. It costs about £600 a month to have one person in rehabilitation. So that's about the figure. And for Hesed, it's not that much. For Hesed, it's probably about 200 to have one child in for the month, because they don't live with us. They are there in the day, but we do have all the specialists in. Nobody can pay that. In Adullam and Toledo, I think the parent that pays most ever is about £200, which is not more than a third, which is nice, not complaining. Yeah. Some pay 100, some pay 50, and Hesed, some pay 50, some pay 20, which if in El Alto, they would go to a consultation with the speech and language therapist, the least that they would pay would be a £5, so, and that's for one session. So somebody can't pay the £5, then they pay £2. I still want the £2 because it means co-responsibility. And if they can't pay that, well, we've got about 6 families that are down to zilch. They can't do anything. And another 19 families that can do hardly anything. Well, those families get the option: clean the toilets, you scrub the floors, you make the mid-morning snack, mid-afternoon snack, etc. And that has made people so connected with us that really that's made it into a beautiful, So what Felina started doing, if parents are very consistent, they come to the parent trainings, they do their chores, to put it that way, they are faithful to come to the session where they have to be in with the psychologist or the speech and language therapist to learn how to help their children with the learning difficulties. If they are consistent, then we give them a food hamper. Because I'm not the food bank, I can't start a feeding program. I'd have half the city of Alto out the door. You know, we had one situation fairly close by where an older lady was found to be eating dead dog meat because she had nothing to eat. You know, you can't show yourself giving. But this is one way in which we can honor them. And we've had parents then just break into tears because they said, you were angels because we had nothing. You know, so it's in Hesed, it's quite a mixed bag. The Bible says you will have the poor with you always. Well, that's quite a difficult assignment, I can tell you, because to know how to walk there, that's very difficult. You don't want to look down on people, make them poor, as in, I do demand, I want that £2 if I see that they can possibly give it. Or if they can't, I do want you to be here and help clean, because it's part of your responsibility. Because otherwise you rob them of the dignity of being part of something. Sorry, enter. Yeah. Now, this is a miracle. If you know anything about children with learning difficulties, they don't do things in groups. They can't sit down in little groups. Well, here you've got most of them. I mean, we've got a good load of parents there as well. We had students in from university who wanted to do an activity with our children. And it's lovely to see how actually they managed to get them sitting in groups. The parents are there, and in front of me, there's a man standing in front of me, and then there's a boy with a gray sweater with black stripes. Well, that's Jose, and he's an autist. You spotted him? Well, they don't do group stuff, but with the help of our education psychologist or whoever did it, he has learned to make a safe space in his head so that he can now cope with being in a group. And why is that important? That means he can stay in school. And because nothing wrong with his marbles, people just don't know how to align the marbles. Well, I don't know how else to say it, you know. Often there's just nothing, but they don't know how to do it. So it's wonderful when you see something like this, and this is a real miracle. Okay, if you mind. I told you about the specialities that we've got in. Like here, the educational psychologist is talking to a mum because if a baby was born dark blue, well, then, you know, if you don't know what else to do, you might have to send them to a neurologist to see if they can do a scan on him to see what's going on in the brain. Because some people are never going to learn. They're never going to improve. And then you just need to learn how to handle the disability that's there and encourage people then to go on a different track, which is not a track with us. Yeah. So we assess kids in schools. I think at one point they did 200 assessments in a particular school. And I said to Felina, I think we need to start making them pay for it. Even if they only pay a quid, I don't mind. But I think we should not let them off scot-free. Not because it's a poor school and all these poor people, you know, because like once we had a girl in Talitakumi, oh, so poor and so on and so on. And when she graduated from the program and all the family came to the graduation meal, you know, all the gold teeth, you know. What do you mean poor, you know? If you had money for that, then yeah, big minibus, you know, well, that means minibus means income, doesn't it? Because that's what they drive in the city to, you know, that's a job. So sometimes people really can make believe something that's not real. But anyway, we try to weed them out. So we've high involvement with about 17 schools. Children will also come sometimes to child protection services. Also, people in the neighborhood saying, "Oh, you've got a child that's got difficulties. Why don't you go to Hesed?" So then we assess to see if we can actually help them. If you don't mind, thank you. I already told you about the social worker. Like I said, she visits everybody. So both from Adullam to Litakumi as well as Hesed, she goes to all the families. And whether they live in La Paz, because Adullam and Talita, we have young people that come from all over the country, not just La Paz or El Alto. They could come from the rural area, they could come from a different city, and she will go and visit all of them at least once. We need to know what the reality is, you know, which is just important. And also to help us understand, because the family you see here is Shella was in the girl's house. Well, her mum is an addict. You can see it in her face, you know. So what chance do they have when they go back home? Sometimes we can be very harsh when we judge an addict. I talked to an addict in another city where I was here in the UK. And when you hear where he's living, he has very, very little chances, really, because the whole environment where he lives, everybody that he sees there are junkies. It's very, very difficult. So we try to then see, together with Child Protective Services, is there somewhere else where they could actually go to or receive help? Yeah. Okay. Now, like I said, we had training for parents today. Last year, we trained about 70, 75, 76 parents, Aymara people, a lot of them. We teach the ones that are belonging to Adullam and Litakumi. We teach about alcohol and drugs, about codependent behavior as well. We teach about relapse prevention. We teach about boundaries. Parents of the children that come to Hesed, we teach them about the difficulties children might have, different learning difficulties, about violence in family as well, because when there's learning difficulties, there's tension between a couple, and there could well be then violence in the family or violence against the child. You know, I don't know if they're doing the hot brick treatment in Peru, but El Ladrillo Caliente, if you weren't obedient and so on, you were being sat down on a red hot brick to help you think about your sins, kind of thing. And of course, we all know how to cure autism, yeah? Stop feeding them cheese is what's in the popular belief. So there are a lot of things that we have to attack in teaching. Some are traditional beliefs and some are myths and all sorts. And then we have done something different in 220. Felina said, a lot of our parents actually have lost their family income because hand to mouth wasn't working when people were locked in and people couldn't go out to sell their, like they buy a big stash of toilet rolls and sell them one by one to the minibus drivers that are going through the city. Well, that wasn't happening in COVID when there were no minibuses. So we then taught parents skills as in small knitting machines, deep fry chicken and stuff, different things to help them make family income. Officially, we can't teach any of that because we're not an institution for that, but since they were consenting adults, we could do it. So we did. We try to keep in touch with young people that have been in the mission. Sometimes they come and visit us again, like the girl there with her mum. She brought some goodies to Litakumi. And one time when I didn't feel like cooking, then I walked in to a food court and didn't I bump into Alejandra. Alejandra was in our house for young women in 2007. And this was last year when I walked into her in the food court with her two beautiful boys, well, young men now. So it's great that sometimes we do meet people that have been in the mission. Not all of them are a success story, but it's great when we just link up. And sometimes we get phone calls, you know, we're doing fine, or we get a phone call saying, I'm not great. And then I have to get them back for maybe one session with the psychologist, or with a mentor, or with mental assistance as well, you know, to try and get them back on track. Now, I don't do all of this on my own, obviously. Mission Adullam has had 137 Bolivians working there through the years. We've served in our community for 30 years now. And all Bolivians as well. We have 3 wonderful trustees have been with us right from the beginning. And it's also a Jewish curse. I wish you much staff. Apparently that's a Jewish. I must say some of them are a real pain in the butt. So if you remember, then please pray about the situation that we have with our administrator, because she's not doing her job properly. And thankfully, she wrote a very nasty email to me, which I answered yesterday. And I said, it's very impertinent what you've written to me. I said, but it's very nice that you're saying that you are obeying instructions. Well, I already told you something on the 17th of November, and I'm now reminding you that it was already in your job description to do something which you have not done since yet. So now I'm instructing you directly to start doing this particular job. So we'll see. We need another one. Gained presence in our area here. I'm in New York teaching staff of different rehabilitation centers from all over the world in our rehabilitation model, which a copy I brought here to see. Here we are in the city. Here we are in an activity with the police. We work very closely with police that deals with trafficking and also with obviously the narcotics police and so on. We have received a lot of acknowledgement authorities through the last few years, since 2007 more or less, actually, that started happening. After 25 years, it sort of counts apparently what you do. To the left was once when we got an acknowledgement by the city of El Alto for the work that we do on behalf of the teenagers. And to the right, that's when we received an acknowledgement by the Child Protection Services, because they're actually quite proud of us. You complain about health and safety and about Child Protection Services or whatever you call the checks people have to do. You have no idea. Talk to me. That's why a lot of people don't want to work with teenagers anymore, because it becomes increasingly difficult. But I like a challenge, and I think, well, okay, you come and check that. We come and do an inspection. We get in the psychologist, the doctor, the teacher, or the educational science. We get the social worker. We get the nutritionist. So we get a whole package in, and they will check everything. And whenever I'm there and I see them, I said, "Oh, thank you very much." That means I don't need to bring the white gloves myself next week. I think I take it from that side, but it's sometimes they are nitpicking. My goodness, you know. Anyway, we are on very, very good level with the kind of work we do. And the Dutch guys that came to our anniversary, one of them has worked in a rehabilitation center himself, and he was quite taken aback by the standard actually that we have. So that's glory to God, and that's because you're there with us. We couldn't have done it on our own. It's because people like yourselves pray for us, support us, and that's why we are still shooting to do things to the highest possible standards. You know, there's no reason. I've worked in Penayal in the adult center, and we'd go to the market, you know, and we'd get the leftover veggies and so on. I have cooked and eaten the shiny green and blue liver. Well, been there and done that. And I thought, when that was happening, this is not honoring to God. You know, so when we started, I said to my board as well, I said, I'm not going to go to the market to scrounge around for rubbish vegetables. They need to be fed well, because they're teenagers that are in growing up age. They need to, you know, build up. So, and the Lord's honored it, and that's just wonderful. Okay, thank you. Sorry about the movie. Not a problem. So we're in results. Results. People ask about results. Well, I've stopped baptizing in a river. We've done one. Then we baptized in the middle of the church. We don't do those anymore either. I've dedicated most of the 73 children that came through the mission in the midst of our local church. We celebrate 15th birthdays, very, very important. Very important thing to do in any South American country, I think. And we do it well. And I'm blessed with our church because whenever I say to the youth leaders, I need escorts, and they come suitably tied up. I had guys from another church, they were also coming. And I said, well, just to say, we expect you to be suitably tied up. And they didn't do it, didn't they? So the first two guys you can see have got sneakers on and jeans. Well, they were mortified, very embarrassed because they were supposed to do the waltz with the girls, ladies in waiting, that were all also very, very nicely dressed. And in the midst of the boys from my church, they were all really looking very smart. And it always moves my heart, holy man, putting an arm around the girl to do a waltz, not thinking about sex or about whatever, just we want to do something beautiful because it is a 15th birthday and we want to do it well. And to see them there, just moves my heart every time I see it because it's just lovely. And these girls, for instance, they would have never had a 15th birthday because one of the girls is being raised by a grandmother, extremely poor family. So she wouldn't have had a 15th birthday. The other one from a very poor family as well. They did bring a cake, a small one, but they brought a cake. They wouldn't have been able to hire a dress because you hire, and that's expensive. We spend at least 100 quid in a 15th birthday, for which the Lord so far has always provided. You can think, oh no, we can't do that. Well, if we think we can't do it, the Lord says, okay, up to you, sort of. Well, we've resorted to buying some stuff as well, so that we've got something, because sometimes that's been cheaper. Anyway, we have a result of 38% that comes out of rehabilitation the right way up. I used to say 48%, but Felina said no. If they don't have a life project, un proyecto de vida, then we don't consider them to be fully rehabilitated. If they don't know where they're going, what their aim is, then we shouldn't say that. Well, if you talk to anybody in the UK, they are very happy to have 10%. They'd be really chuffed to have 12%. And oh man, if it was 15, they'd be, they don't get that. So it's to God's glory. And also because it's my game, Felina's game. As in, if I feel it's necessary to keep somebody in for 8 months, they're there 8 months or a year or 12, 14 months or 16 months, that's usually not necessary. But as in, we can do what we please here because the authorities are paying for it. You get 3 months, and if you can, then maybe you get another 3 months, and that's it. Well, because the Lord's paying our bills through people, we can have them as long as they need it. So that's partly why we've got such a lot higher results as maybe you get in the UK. Okay. I've got some other areas of ministry as well. I'm involved in prison ministry. I was involved in prison ministry early days as well, when I was working with the adults, realizing that men get into trouble with the law when they are drunk on the streets and get locked up in a police cell. Then got in touch with prison. This is the high security prison that we're standing outside of, together with the team from the local church. And here, a brother that used to be in prison himself with his wife, well, not his wife, she wasn't in prison, but a brother in the prison was in charge of the church, and I was sending people from the police cells to the prison. So, okay, the computer died. We just had a computer die here. It was fine, but we're nearly done anyway. But so I still have a relation with him. He's still working with people in that same prison, the male prisons. I have gone to the women's prison for a little bit because the lady in charge there, she died and there was nobody taking it on. So I have quite a bit of thing to do with the prisoner that's in charge of the little church, because usually the churches are being monitored and taught by prisoners themselves. And then what we do is we support them as much as we can. So I'm involved with that. I'm also a prison chaplain for Epsom, which is a Dutch organization that provides pastoral care for Dutch guys locked away in a foreign country. I'm reaching out to the ones in Bolivia as well as in Paraguay. I'm sure you've got people here in the UK reaching out to them as well. So if they want it, then so the picture to the left at the bottom, that's preaching to a captive audience of 500 men. Because that's in one of the sections of Takumbu prison, which is one of the worst prisons that I've seen so far. Some sections are quite nice, like this particular section, nice, although you've got a lot of problem there as well with the PSC, which is the Brazilian organization, criminal organization, infiltrated as well in Paraguay and Bolivia. But yeah, it's great fun. Some of my responsibility, of course, is accountability visits, like what I'm doing here to Epsom. I visit churches. I try to be around once every 3 years to be accountable to you and to just show what the Lord's been doing through your involvement, because people that are on the mailing list are reading our news, praying for us. There are people supporting us financially, and it's my deal to be accountable, to feedback, to write newsletters, to put the extra prayer points on Facebook, which, by the way, is very encouraging, because whenever we have an emergency going on and I shoot out an extra prayer request, nearly within a half an hour, I've got at least 100 people that have seen it. And I hope half of them are praying for it, because seeing it is not the same as, but it's very, very encouraging. So that's one of my responsibilities. I'm involved in the local church to a level, and I do another couple of bits, but linked with the rural area and so on. But so that's my other areas of ministry. Remember this lady, my living room, where we've got loads of parcels sorted for the rural area. And we're just going to give the people here a moment to catch up. Oh, we'll just give them a moment to catch up. We'll let this thing roll in again. Beautiful card that was given to me by the English churches. I have no idea who all gave to it, but through a veil, that was a gift from the churches in the UK. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can you roll it again, please? If you do that again, you're back. So remember this lady. This is in my living room, parcels that I make for the rural area to encourage leaders and pastors. We used to do 7, now we're doing about 31. Here I'm walking towards the male prison in the pandemic to bring them some food stuff, because they have no visitors. This is the lovely card that I was given by the English churches through a veil, which is amazing. And here you see people receiving food aid. This is in a rural area. People in the United Kingdom have been extremely generous in the pandemic, 2020 and 21, but especially in 20, I have received thousands of pounds through a veil. Also, similar type of money through Holland to be able to help people that were getting stuck, like in the rural areas, people that had no way to send their product, no way to make income. In the cities, people had no way to help themselves with medication, because their COVID medication is very expensive. Remdesivir, I don't know what the stuff was called, but the same medication is sold here. Well, it was given to you by your lovely NHS. It cost £160 a pill, but on the black market, it could be up as much as 300 and even 400 a pill, or a shot, sorry, and then shot. So stuff that was impossible for people. And of course, I never paid for the full whack for nobody, but to be able to help people in a measure, help them with food, help them with money to pay an electricity bill or something. It's been a time of amazing blessing that we were able to be involved in. Now, what I said about that lady that you saw in that first picture next to my living room picture, well, the parcels that we send into leaders and in the area, there's a main village. Out of there, they reach out into about 10, 11 small communities. So one of those ladies was saying to the pastor or to her husband, I can't remember, that she wasn't going to go to church because she had no way of washing herself or washing her hair or anything. She had nothing. So that was the end of the conversation. Well, this happened in December, right? So this is the omniscience of God. In December, she had this going on. And then she got our parcel. And my parcel is always very practical. It's soap, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrush. So very nice cookies, not the rubbish you can buy in the rural area, but nice stuff you buy in the city, you know, pudding and I don't know, different things. But she got my bag. So she opens this and was flabbergasted because she had shampoo and stuff to wash herself. So I have teenagers that help me pack all this. I don't do that. You have to be clever about these things, you know. So this is God's omniscience. The girl said, Fineke, God saw a need in December and provided for it in July. That's God's omniscience, isn't it? For the Lord, it's time doesn't exist. And that was just, you know, one example of how the Lord really looks out for people. That's such a blessing. It's such a blessing to be involved in that as well. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Al. So, and one more, then if you do one more click, then the book cover will come in again. So, I don't know if there's any questions. I am very grateful that you were involved with the ministry, grateful to be able to come and share. And I'm sure it will prompt you at some points to remember and pray. If you want to receive the newsletter, tomorrow I'll have the same notepad that's up here at the moment. If you want to sign on for it, I will never write a newsletter or an email saying, if you don't cough up 50 quid, it's going to die. I never do those. Well, I know people do them and they get away with it as well. But no, not me. An extra prayer point, if you don't have Facebook, which you would like to receive those prayer requests on a flat email, then I do have a list of 100 and something people that don't have Facebook, but they want the prayer points. You can also sign on for those. And like I said, the book's here now, and it will be there tomorrow as well, which has the whole story if you're interested, just to see what the Lord's done through the years. Right. Any questions?
How tiring is that being a missionary?
Pardon?
How tiring is that being a missionary?
Tiring.
Is it?
I don't know, is it?
How tired? Does she look tired?
Found the surgeon.
I should, well, I sometimes do work my butt off, but I'm sure you'd say the same. If you want an 8-hour job, then please don't become a missionary, because we do get people on the mission field that actually think they can, oh, well, now we need to clock out. And maybe the Lord allows that in certain ministries as well, which is fine. Not my idea about serving people, or in the church. Like one evening I was going to go to bed. I was a bit late, you know, it was close to midnight, get a phone call from the young people in the church. Fineke, we're involved in deliverance ministries, not going anywhere. Can you please come? Okay. So I got dressed, phoned my pastor, Mario, he was also asleep. Mario, you need to pray for me because I'm going to get into deliverance stuff. I phoned another friend. I said, you need to pray for me because I'd like to go in and know that I'm being backed up. Yeah. So at midnight, I was in a taxi and I was out and that got done and dusted, which was good. Yeah. So I think serving in the mission field is being willing to go beyond boundaries. And I find sometimes that your generation can't do that. And I don't know why, Don't laugh because that nearly includes yours as well. And I don't understand why, because I don't think it's a matter of the heart being wrong.
No, I think it's because that would be you can't give this is kind of true, but maybe not, don't give much positive.
Well, when it's sort of 7:30 in the evening, I like to put my feet up, have my cat on my lap. I love some covered peanuts, and yeah, I like to watch Vera or Chase or whatever. But if that's not happening, then that's not the end of the world. I've not had a holiday of 2 weeks for, I don't know, forever. I can't remember when I last had a proper holiday like that. I was going to have one for 10 days and then the pandemic happened in 2020. So that was the end of that idea. But
I think holidays are just busy. Well, it depends what holiday you are.
no, I was going to go on a proper holiday, but anyway. But I like to have small bits of break, 3 days or 4 days. Get out of the high altitude because that's not great for sleeping well. Go to Santa Cruz, go down in altitude for a few days. So, but I think I have proved through the years the Lord looks after me. And the Lord has systems for everybody different. Like if you'd read this, you'd see I've had a nervous breakdown at some point. Well, one of my safety valves, is that what you say?
Yeah.
I like my snoozes.
Like snooze button or snoozes like that.
Sleep.
Okay. I don't have time. Yeah.
And
You press your alarm for 10 minutes.
And I've been out in Bolivia now for 33 years, and Lord's not said anything to me about tomorrow or about whenever. I see myself doing the same thing as I'm doing at the moment for the next 10 years, and maybe the Lord will say something else. I don't know. Yeah. Because somebody said I didn't invent that. Retirement is out of this world, not this one.
Can't get retired. We had that. But do we hear that?